rest of the tuberculosis and its related management. Now I have written tuberculosis and its related programmatic management because we will be focusing on what is given, what is provided in the National TB Control Program. Okay, the National TB Control Program. So we'll start with again the basics that there are two types of drugs that are provided in TB, the first line drugs and the second line drugs. First line drugs are rifampicin, isoniazid, then streptomycin, pyrazinamide and ethambutol. Okay? And the second line drugs are basically fluoroquinolones like moxifloxacin, levofloxacin. Then there is a second line injectable like amikacin, kanamycin, capreomycin. Then there are ethionamide, cycloserine, thiacetazone, macrolides, and newer drugs are bedaquiline and delamanid. The newer drugs are bedaquiline and delamanid. Now in the recent, from last year, these newer drugs have been introduced in the program all over India so that those drugs are available to the TB patients. So we will see, before giving treatment to anyone, before giving the drugs to anyone, we have to evaluate all these things. For example, if a patient has come to be TB positive, we studied about the diagnostic methods last class, right? So if a patient has come to be TB positive, whether drug sensitive or drug resistant, we have to do this pre-treatment evaluation in everyone. What are these? We have to screen for all these risk factors, take all this history, like history of any mental illness, seizure disorder, drug or alcohol abuse, even tobacco consumption. Okay? Any previous history of anti-tubercular treatment taken or not in the patient, especially the second line injectables or fluoroquinolones. Then taking the weight and height, thorough clinical examination whether any systemic problems are there in the patient or not. Then doing all this blood tests like CBC, blood sugar, urea, creatinine, LFT, liver function test, okay, TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Then electrolytes like potassium, calcium, magnesium, okay. Proteins like albumin, globulin and amylase lipase. Then taking the urine examination, routine and microscopic, okay. Any culture in the urine culture, whether there is any organism present or not. And the UPT, urine pregnancy test. In females, we have to see whether the patient is pregnant or not. Because many drugs, many anti-tubercular drugs, they cannot be taken during pregnancy. So if the patient is pregnant, then we have to look for the safer drugs. Then chest X-ray, audiogram, ECG, any ophthalmologist opinion to rule out chorioretinitis, uveitis, and finally HIV counseling and testing. Okay, so all this pre-treatment evaluation needs to be done. These are the prerequisites for giving a anti-tubercular treatment to a diagnosed patient. Okay, so we will start with this. We know that drug-sensitive tuberculosis, this is the treatment regimen. This used to be there. Nowadays, it is said that in the new and previously treated, for both, it is 2 HRZD and 4 HRE. This previously treated, this separate criteria, it was like till valid till 2 to 3 years before. Nowadays, for both the new and the previously treated, they are giving 2 HRZD and 4 HRE. In the intensive phase, that is for the first 2 months, you are giving the HRZD, and in the continuation phase, that is for the next 4 months, they are giving 4 HRE. Okay. Now, why am I giving this combination of drugs? This is called fixed dose combination. That is, a dose is fixed. In one tablet, all these drugs are present. So why am I giving this fixed dose combination drugs? The advantages are the treatment is simple to administer. Okay, in one drug there are all the four drugs in one tablet. Easier dose adjustment by body weight for each body weight criteria, because in the previously we have known that according to body weight we are giving the number of tablets. So according to body weight also there are different blister packs. So we can easily adjust the dose by body weight or change the number of tablets. Increase patient acceptance, fewer drugs to swallow, quicker supervision. For supervision also, when the health worker is seeing that the patient is taking the drug in front of them, it is easier to supervise if they are taking the drug or not. And there is reduced risk of monotherapy, that is, if the patient is taking one drug and leaving any other drugs, so that risk is nullified here. So there is reduced risk of monotherapy or drug resistance. So if one drug is taken and another drug is not taken, there is a increased chance of drug resistance. So that is also mitigated by these fixed dose combination treatments. Okay, so these are the reasons for which the fixed dose combination treatments are given. This we have seen last class, the pediatric TB dosage. Okay, this is according to the body weight. On the 4 to 25 kg body weight, these tablets are given. Now, what are the common ADRs or adverse drug reaction of these first line drugs? We have to understand that most of the drugs are hepatotoxic. Okay, most of the drugs are hepatotoxic, that is, they are affecting the liver. So, isoniazid, they cause peripheral neuropathy, skin rash, hepatitis, drowsiness, allergy. Okay, these are all can be there for the when the patient is taking isoniazid. Now, for the prevention of the side effects, usually the patient is also given pyridoxine 10 milligram per day. Okay, vitamin B6 pyridoxine 10 milligram per day. So, the supplementation is given if anyone is taking this fixed dose combination or anyone is taking isoniazid preventive therapy for prevention of TB. In those cases also the pyridoxine 10 milligram per day is given to prevent this peripheral neuropathy, skin rash, etc. And then rifampicin, there is abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, hepatitis, generalized cutaneous reactions, thrombocytopenic purpura. So these are the drug reactions for rifampicin. And in rifampicin, what happens is there is a red colored urine can generate if you take rifampicin. That is not a side effect, that is just there, that can occur. So the patient has to be advised, counseled or warned that this can happen and not to be scared by it. So orange or red color discoloration in body fluids, especially urine, it is due to rifampicin, not an adverse reaction, and patients should be made aware of this. Then there is pyrazinamide, arthralgia, hepatitis, gastrointestinal symptoms. Ethambutol causes retrobulbar neuritis. And streptomycin, there is allergy, fever, burning sensation, vertigo, nausea, vomiting, blood double vision, etc. Fast or irregular heartbeat. So these are the adverse drug reactions for the first line injectables, first line anti-tubercular drugs. These are the adverse drug reactions. So mainly you can see that most of them are hepatotoxic. In the pharmacovigilance in TB control, what is this? Pharmacovigilance, this term you will come often in many subjects in the coming years. The pharmacovigilance is the science and activities relating to the detection, assessment, understanding and prevention of these adverse effects or any other drug related problem. So this pharmacovigilance monitoring of all the patients that are taking the TB drugs should be there, so that the adverse drug reactions of these patients can be monitored and the dosage or the drugs can be changed accordingly. Okay. So required for both drug sensitive and drug resistant TB cases, and apart from the first line drugs being hepatotoxic, newer drugs bedaquiline and delamanid are cardiotoxic as well. So these has to be kept in mind while monitoring the drug reactions in the patients. Now multi-drug resistant DRTB. DRTB regimens, in the current regimen there are the shorter oral bedaquiline containing regimen 9 to 11 months, shorter injectable containing regimen 9 to 11 months, and longer oral XDR or MDR TB regimen for 18 to 20 months. So these are the three regimens that are going on right now. These are the three regimens that are going on right now. The shorter oral bedaquiline, if the bedaquiline is not tolerated or the bedaquiline is contraindicated, then you give the shorter injectable containing regimen, and if the patient is not eligible for either of them, then there is a longer oral MDR or XDR TB regimen for 18 to 20 months. Now we will see in whom to give what regimen later. So as we saw in the last class, the shorter oral bedaquiline containing regimen is for 9 to 11 months, where for the first 4 to 6 months there is a bedaquiline, levofloxacin, clofazimine, pyrazinamide, ethambutol, and high dose isoniazid and ethionamide. Last class there was a mistake in this slide, that there it was written 6, it should be actually 4. Okay, this is actually 4. Because for the first 4 months only, we will give the high dose isoniazid and the ethionamide. From the 5th month, we will not give that. Okay. So for the first 4 months, only the isoniazid and ethionamide are given. And if the intensive phase is extended to 6 months, then you can continue the bedaquiline, levofloxacin, clofazimine, pyrazinamide, ethambutol only till 6 months. So that is why it is written like this in the intensive phase. And in the continuation phase, for the next 5 months, you give the levofloxacin, clofazimine, pyrazinamide, ethambutol, and you eliminate the rest of the drugs. So it is like that. And in the shorter injectable containing regimen, instead of just bedaquiline, you give the injectable. That is kanamycin or amikacin. That is the only difference. Okay? And here there is moxifloxacin instead of levofloxacin. Otherwise, it is almost the same, these two regimens. Okay, there is a longer oral regimen, 18 to 20 months, and there is, if in the patient there is the isoniazid mono or poly DRTB resistance detected, that is not to both isoniazid and rifampicin, but just isoniazid and any other drugs, any other first line drugs, then there is the 6 months of levofloxacin, rifampicin, ethionamide, what is that? Ethambutol and pyrazinamide. Okay. So 6 months of levofloxacin, rifampicin, ethambutol, pyrazinamide. So this is the treatment for the H mono or poly DRTB resistance drugs. Okay. This is for that. But otherwise, these regimens are followed. In the longer oral XDR-TB regimen, this is the regimen, okay. For 18 to 20 months it is there. Bedaquiline is there for 6 months. Apart from that, levofloxacin, linezolid, clofazimine, cycloserine. So these drugs are given. And you can change the combination of drugs depending on this criteria, the groups of drugs. That is, in group A drugs you have to include all of them. Group B drugs you can include one or both, and if you want to give any other drug, you can give from this group C drugs, the rest of the drugs. So it is there in your book also, you can read. Now the shorter oral bedaquiline containing regimen, as we saw, this is the regimen for the intensive phase and this is the continuation phase, right? This is the intensive phase and this is the continuation phase. Now, what is the dosage to be given for bedaquiline? This can be asked. Bedaquiline can be given maximum up to 6 months or 24 weeks. Okay? In the week 0 to 2, you give 400 milligram per day. And from the 3rd week onwards till 24 weeks, you give 200 milligram thrice a week. That is, there should be at least 48 hours gap between the two doses. Okay, there should be at least 48-hour gap between the two doses. So, week 0 to 2, 400 milligram per day, and week 3 to 24, 200 milligram thrice a week. This is the dosage. Other than that, there is levofloxacin, clofazimine, pyrazinamide and ethambutol. And this high dose isoniazid and ethionamide, this should only be given till 4 months. If the intensive phase is extended till 6 months, you can continue the rest of the drugs, but you have to keep out these two drugs. That is the regimen. Okay. What are the criteria for giving the new drugs? Now, not every patient is eligible for the newer drugs like bedaquiline and delamanid. Delamanid is another drug like bedaquiline, where the patients are of more than 12 years can receive 100 milligram twice daily for 24 weeks. that is for 6 months, and patients 6 to 11 years can receive 50 milligram twice daily for 24 weeks. So Delamanid, this is a criteria for giving. Okay, patients 6 to 11 years and then more than 12 years and above. So what is the inclusion criteria? That is, for whom will I give these drugs? Patients 6 years and above with weight 15 kg or more, having this resistant type of TB, drug resistant TB, and patients with controlled stable arrhythmia can be considered. That is because we told that these drugs are cardiotoxic, right? So that is why if the patient's arrhythmia is controlled, so after consultation with a cardiologist, we can give the drug to those patients. Okay? But these criteria should be there. Whom will I not give these drugs? Pregnant and lactating mothers, uncontrolled cardiac arrhythmia on medication. If the QT interval on the ECG is more than equal to 500 at baseline, and those with risk factors for torsades de pointes like heart failure, hypokalemia, long family history of QT syndrome. Okay, so we have to keep in mind all these points before administering the bedaquiline regimen or the Delamanid regimen. Now, when to do follow-up? When to do the follow-up? That is, the patient is coming every month to take the drug from the center, okay, for the 1 month. When to do the follow-up tests, so that we can understand whether the drugs are being tolerated by the patients or not. So smear microscopy will be given, it will be done monthly from 3 months. That is, from the 3 months of treatment, we will do monthly smear microscopy till the end of the intensive phase, till 6 months. If the smear is positive at 6 months, do another smear microscopy after 7 days. And if it is still positive, then start longer oral regimen. That is, shorter oral regimen is not reducing the acid fast bacilli in the sputum. So then we will start the longer oral regimen. Then culture, monthly from 3 months till the end of the IP till 6 months. If the culture is positive at 6 months, do another culture immediately. And if it is still positive, then start the longer oral regimen. Okay, so from 3 months to 6 months, monthly the test will be done. Even at the end of the 6 months, it is still positive. After repeated tests, then we will start the longer oral regimen. If the patient is become negative, then you will continue the existing regimen. Okay. And even if the smear and culture remains positive after IP or extended IP, then do drug sensitivity testing also, like line probe assay or this liquid culture and DST. C and DST, culture and drug sensitivity testing. That is, we have to see whether they have developed resistance towards any other drugs, so that we will give the drugs accordingly in the longer regimen. Because in the longer regimen, you can adjust the drugs from the groups A, B, C drugs. So that is why we will see which drugs they are resistant now. So we will adjust the drugs and the dosages accordingly. So that is the drug sensitivity testing and the culture, like line probe assay and other tests for the other second line drugs. Okay. And apart from that, every month when the patient is coming, you give them tests like UPT, CBC, TSH, LFT, chest X-ray, ECG and serum electrolytes. These are tested. So this follow-up should be continued in these patients. Now this is the algorithm, integrated drug resistant TB algorithm given in 2019. Now what is it? In the presumptive TB, if all these patients like PLHIB, EPTV, smear negative, vulnerable populations or contact of DRTB patients, these presumptive TB cases or notified TB patients or non-responder to treatment, they should be doing a CBNAT when you are diagnosing them first. If rifampicin resistance is detected, then you do a second line test like line probe assay and LC-DST, that is drug sensitivity culture testing. If there is a presence of non-DST based criteria or resistance to many other drugs, okay, then if there is no resistance to any other drugs, only the first line drugs, then you start the shorter MDR-TB regimen, the shorter regimens. Okay. But if there is a detection of this other resistance to other drugs, and there may be also a history of use of these drugs for more than 1 month before, okay, previously treated, or intolerance to second line drugs. So then you start the longer MDR-TB regimen. Okay, then you start the longer MDR-TB regimen. In case of additional resistance also, or failing regimen, drug intolerance or newly developed resistance, you give the longer MDR-TB regimen. If there is only rifampicin resistance and only resistance to first line drugs, then you give the shorter regimen. If there is resistance to second line drugs, you start the longer regimen. That is the main principle. If the rifampicin resistance is not detected in CBNAT, then you do the first line treatment. After some time, do the line probe assay. If in the line probe assay the resistance is detected against the isoniazid, okay, and isoniazid, then you give the isoniazid mono or poly DRTB regimen. That is the 6 months of levofloxacin, pyrazinamide ethambutal and rifampicin. Okay, if only the isoniazid resistance is detected. And if the isoniazid resistance is also not detected, rifampicin resistance is also not detected, then you continue the first line treatment. And all these drugs, that is a longer MDR-TB, oral isoniazid mono or poly DRTB regimen, you can modify the regimen if required during the follow-up. In the follow-up, you test again whether they have developed resistance to any new drugs and then modify the regimen accordingly. So this is the principle of giving the drug resistant TB cases their treatment. Okay. Now this very new regimen that has been recommended by WHO, and this has been started in phased manner in certain districts in the country. It is not available everywhere now. It has been started based on the recommendation of WHO, that is a B-PALM regimen. It is even shorter, 6 months, 6 months new short regimen, the B-PALM regimen. It can be given to pulmonary TB or all forms of extrapulmonary TB. Patient should be aged 14 years and above. There is no allergy or resistance to any of these drugs, and there is no XDR TB, and the patient should not be pregnant or breastfeeding. If premenopausal patients are there, then prepare to use contraception like barrier methods, IUDs. Okay? And not OCPs, because the oral contraceptive pills will cross-react with this regimen. So these are the criteria for giving the B-PALM regimen. That is a 6 months new shorter regimen. Now what is this? Bedaquiline, dosage as before for 6 months. Okay. Pretomanid, this is a newer drug. Pretomanid 200 milligram OD, that is once daily. Linezolid 600 milligram once daily, and moxifloxacin 400 milligram once daily. So bedaquiline B, Pretomanid, okay, PA, and linezolid L, moxifloxacin M. So B-PALM regimen. So bedaquiline, pretomanid, linezolid and moxifloxacin. So this regimen can be given to these patients who are meeting the criteria, and they can be started. But as I said, it is not available in all of India yet. It has been started in a phased manner based on the WHO recommendations. This is a very new drug, very new regimen that has been introduced, I think, just at the end of the last year. Now, what are the TB comorbidities? Whenever a patient has TB, you have to look for these comorbidities, because these comorbidities can increase the chances of death in the TB patients. So, you have to detect this and treat accordingly. What are there? The undernourishment, whether the patient is undernourished. Okay. So, what are the solutions? The patient has to be given enrolled under the Nikshay Poshan Yojana. Nikshay Poshan Yojana, that is under the program part, so we will come to that later. Just remember the name, Nikshay Poshan Yojana. Alcohol use disorder, if there is a patient, then you can do the counseling, refer them to de-addiction center, social support systems. If the patient has history of smoking or consumption of tobacco, then the patient has to be counseled for quitting the tobacco. So there are the 5 hours of quitting, relevance of quitting, risk of continuing, reward of quitting, roadblock to quitting, and repeated age visit. So patient has to be made to quit the smoking or the tobacco. Then there is diabetes. So there should be screening and management of diabetes mellitus in those patients. control, the diabetes mellitus has to be controlled, and joint monitoring and evaluation of both the diabetes and the TB at each visit. And finally, HIV. In people living with HIV, there should be early detection of the TB and ATT followed by ART between 2 weeks and 2 months. Means if a patient has both the TB and the HIV, then the patient should be started on the anti-tubercular treatment first, ATT. Okay, then after a shorter time of 2 weeks to 2 months, after that you start the ART, that is the anti-retroviral treatment. So the ATT, anti-tubercular treatment, should be started first, because if you start the ART first, what happens is there is a immunocompromised state, right? So the TB might get more activated. Okay, there would be more complications. So you first reduce the bacterial load by the ATT, and then you start the ART. So these are the TB comorbidities that are there. This we have already studied, like isoniazid preventive therapy. Okay. Now we will come to the program part. I will go through the phased manner, like the program evolution. It started with the before there was a national tuberculosis control program, NTCP was there. Okay. Then there was a revised national tuberculosis control program phase 1. It was launched in 1997 with 12% population coverage, and a very famous strategy was there called DOT strategy. Okay, DOT strategy. It was aimed to attain the high cure rate, reduce mortality, morbidity, and to interrupt the chain of transmission of TB. So what is the control program? What is control? Control means that we have to reduce the transmission of the disease to such an extent so that the problem ceases to be a public health problem. Okay, so we have to reduce the transmission, reduce the mortality, reduce the morbidity, reduce the new incidence cases. Okay, that is the aim of this RNTCP phase 1. Then patient-wise boxes introduced for each registered patients, creation of sub-district level. Tuberculosis unit was formed at this stage. The tuberculosis unit was there, TB unit was there at each sub-district level, like this subdivisional hospital. Okay. In each of these subdivisional hospital and equivalent sub-district levels, the TB units are created at each centers for 5 lakh population. Then microscopy center was there for 1 lakh population. DOT center was established at each PHC. So these centers were there, that is microscopy, then each CHC level for 1 lakh population, this TB unit who oversaw all the programmatic aspects in that subdivisional area, and the DOT center. Now what is DOTS? This is a directly observed treatment short course chemotherapy. DOTS, that is a directly observed treatment short course, DOTS chemotherapy. What is this? Health worker or other trained person or even a family member watches as patient swallows the anti-TB medicine in their presence. This strategy achieves high cure rates and prevents drug resistance. Okay. This was a strategy that whenever the patient is coming to take the drug for this month, they will take the first dose in within my presence, the health worker's presence, and after that the drug has to be taken in the presence of either a health worker or their family member, whom the DOT center will designate that they should be taking, so that no drug is missed and no resistance is developing. Okay. So this is the directly observed short course chemotherapy. The objectives of RNTC phase 1 was to maintain the high cure rate of 85% among new sputum smear positive cases. That is the 85% of the TB patients should be cured. And then to achieve and maintain 70% detection of new sputum smear positive cases when 95% cure rate is achieved. That is, apart from the cure rate, we should be able to detect 70% of the new cases. At least 70% of the estimated TB cases should be detected. So this is the control program objectives. Okay. And there was because all this program was based on at that time the Millennium Development Goals. The MDGs were at that time there, the Millennium Development Goals, that was from 2000 to 2015. Okay, 2015, the Millennium Development Goals were there. By 2005, to detect at least 70% of new smooth smear positive cases and cure at least 85% of these cases. Then by 2015, reduce the TB prevalence and death rates by 50%, and by 2050, eliminate the TB as a public health problem. That was the goal of the Millennium Development Goals in India. Okay. Now then WHO developed the Stop TB strategy. Okay. From 2006 onwards, after those rates of 85% cure and 70% detection are achieved, then the WHO came out with a Stop TB strategy for the worldwide. Till 2015 it was there. It was to pursue high quality DOTS expansion, address the TB, HIV comorbidity and the MDR TB, contribute to health system strengthening, and engage all care providers, empower patients and enable and promote research. So all these components are there. You don't have to remember this, just remember that the WHO came out with a Stop TB strategy at first. Okay. So there was a Millennium Development Goals, then there was the Stop TB strategy. So based on this Stop TB strategy, the RNTCP phase 2 was there. Okay. This Stop TB strategy was then incorporated. What are the major initiatives? DOTS plus or PMDT. Now the DOTS strategy was then modified. TB HIV collaborative activities, early and complete case detection to cover marginalized groups. Now some particular vulnerable groups are being focused on, so that the TB detection is present there. Okay. And setting up of state level intermediate research laboratory, intermediate reference laboratory. That is, the microscopy centers are there for 1 lakh population, but there should be an intermediate reference laboratory, so that all the samples can be sent there. So these are the newer initiatives that were there under the RNTCP phase 2. The DOTS plus, TB HIV collaborative activities, case detection to cover marginalized groups and hard to reach areas, and setting up of state level. That is, in state there is only one intermediate reference laboratory. Okay. So this has resulted in downward trend of prevalence and mortality due to TB in the country. Now that we have achieved the cure, that is the case detection rate, now the cure and the burden mortality is being reduced slowly. So DOTS plus is basically programmatic management of MDR TB, that is PMDT, introduced in 2007 to address the needs of the MDR TB patients. So the first, as I said, there is the decentralization, that is establishing a network of state level culture and drug susceptibility testing in the intermediate referral laboratories. The IRLs are established where the culture and drug susceptibility testing, that is the CDST testing, are done, so that the patient's drug resistance is detected. Okay. In microscopy centers it is there, like only the AFB detected, but where do you detect the culture and the drug sensitivity testing? That is there in the IRL labs at that point. Okay. At that time CBNet was not there yet. Okay. And so what is this decentralized test and treat approach? That is a decentralized, in each state there is there, then under each state the subdivisional level, the TB units are there. So what are the decentralized approach? It is the early and faster initiation of treatment for all diagnosed DRT patients, bringing the care closer to the residence of majority of the DRT patients, so that patients do not have to travel far to get them treatment or getting them detected. Okay. Significant reduction in the catastrophic expenditure, because patients will have this expenditure on this TB treatment and detection. So to reduce this catastrophic expenditure on health, this decentralized treatment approach is there. And rationally minimizing the need and duration of hospitalization, because they are getting the treatment early. Minimizing the travel of patients, thereby transmission risks are reduced. If you travel far and wide, then there is transmission of your surrounding people as well. So that is reduced. Accountability of the district program management units, and rationalizing utilization of existing DRTB centers to ensure the quality. So decentralized means, that is, all the facilities are not at the central level, that is not at the national level. The power is given, or the facilities are given at each centers, and the management of the TB management or the TB program management or overseeing is done at each state level. So the powers are distributed in that manner to make the accountability and to give the testing and the treatment both. Testing by the CDST labs and treatment by the DOTS plus. Okay. So this is the phase 2. At that time 99 dots was also there at the end of this phase 2. What was there? That the blister pack of the ATT contains unique hidden toll-free numbers. That is, if you open the blister pack, there is a toll-free number there, which were revealed once the patient takes the tablet. Once taken, he calls the number from any phone as evidence of the consumption of medicine. So once the patient is taken, he will call that number, okay, and the patient will be registered as okay, he has taken this dosage. So this was a 99 dot strategy. The 99 dot strategy, a low cost approach to track treatment adherence of the patient from the platform by any healthcare worker. Okay, so it is a constant reminder. At that time the 99 dots strategy was there to ensure the adherence and whether the patient, monitoring also, whether the patient has taken the treatment. So the patient is not reporting by this strategy, then that means that the patient is not taking the drug. So the healthcare worker can intervene and take notice that why the patient is not taking the drugs. Okay, so this was a 99 dot strategy. Then came the notification of the TB cases. That is, whenever a TB case is detected, the authorities, the TB unit or the central or the state authorities should be notified of the TB cases. Okay. Concerns with this move can be discussed, but non-reporting is a punishable offence now. Non-reporting may be deemed as either a negligent act or a malignant act spread to likely to spread infection of the disease dangerous to life. So it is now a criminal offence not to notify a TB disease. And in the structural, in the infrastructural organization also there was certain changes. That is, RNTCP program was at first separate, but then it was integrated with the National Health Mission, the NHM. The National Health Mission, now National Health Mission has, under the National Health Mission, all the programs of the diseases in India are there except for the AIDS program. Okay. So RNTCP was integrated with the National Health Mission. So RNTCP structure, there used to be a district TB officer, then medical officer TB control, STS, STLS, and NHM structure was the chief medical officer. What do you see? In the state level there is a chief medical officer, CMOH, and at the blocks there is a BMOH, block medical officer, and under them there is the ANM, multi-purpose worker, etc. Okay, but now they have been integrated like this. What happened? That NHM, under NHM structure, the chief medical officer and the district TB officer, they are coordinating with each other, and at each state now the block medical officer is also the medical officer of TB control. That is a MOTC, MO-TC. MOTC is there at each block. At each block the BMOH, either if only a one BMOH is there, that doctor is the chief, the MOTC. If another doctor is there who is separately coming and working under the program, then that person can be designated as MOTC, but they are working with the block medical officer of health. Okay, usually the BMOH is only acting as the MOTC nowadays, and under them the STS, STLS, TBHB, and under them there is the ANM and multipurpose worker. Now who is the STS? The senior treatment supervisor, senior TB lab supervisor, and TB health visitor. So they are different designated person who are overseeing the different aspects of the program at the block level. Okay. So at the state level, there is the district level, there is a CMOH, okay, and the district TB officer is there. At the block, there is a block medical officer who is also acting as the MOTC, and under them the STS, STLS, TBHB, and under them the ANM and multipurpose worker. Now we are coming to this Nikshay that we have seen before. This Nikshay was originally introduced as the Nikshay Poshan Yojana program only for the patients who are undergoing having the undernourishment or the malnourishment. What was there was they were given, at first they were started with giving 500 rupees per month so that they can be able to buy the food, because patients were not eating properly, okay, and undernourishment was increasing the TB mortality. So that is why 500 rupees per month was given so that they can buy food and eat. Nowadays it is 1000 rupees per month. Okay, that was a Nikshay Poshan Yojana. Now that Nikshay Poshan Yojana, there was scaled up, and this whole portal, digital portal was created called Nikshay portal. Nikshay now is a web-based patient management system under RNTCP. It also acts as national surveillance tool for the government of India, and under this initiatives now Nikshay Poshan Yojana, Nikshay Aushadhi, also several incentives are given. So this Nikshay portal is there where each patient is now registered, their treatment progress, their test results, okay, the diagnosis, all are grouped under this one portal. Each patient profile is there under the Nikshay portal, Nikshay digital portal. So this is a digital platform for the TB program, that is a Nikshay portal. Okay. Then once all these Nikshay portal, TB units, integration with NHM, all these things were done, now came the WHO end TB strategy. Now we have to end the TB. Okay, not only stop the TB transmission but end the TB. That is, now we are going towards the elimination phase. From the control phase, we are now going to the elimination phase. That is, breaking the chain of transmission. Okay, that is the end TB strategy by WHO. So, vision a world with zero deaths, disease and suffering due to TB. Goal is end the global TB epidemic, and the pillars are integrated patient-centered care and prevention, bold policies and supportive systems, intensified research and innovation. So, this was given by the WHO. Now, what did India adopt? The NTB strategy, okay, there were three indicators, you can say. Reduction in TB mortality, reduction in TB incidence, and suffering due to catastrophic expenditure. These three pillars were there. So, reduction in TB deaths compared to 2015, 2015 was taken as the base year now. Related to that, how much reduction should be there? Okay. So, TB deaths reduction should be less by 35% in 2020, and by 2025 it should be less by 75%. And SDG 2030 there is 90%, and NTB 2035 there should be 95% reduction in the deaths. Reduction in TB incidence, it is 80% in SDG and 90% in NTB strategy, and the TB affected families catastrophic cost, it should be 0. So, no family should be affected by the catastrophic expenditure due to TB. Okay, so reduction in TB deaths, reduction in TB incidence, on all these things. So, when this NTB strategy came out, India with the help of the strategy formulated the National Strategic Plan for RNTCP, that is NSP for RNTCP from 2017 to 2025. And it proposed these strategies 5 years ahead of the global SDG targets. So, all these rates are, as you can see, 90% reduction in deaths, 80% reduction in incidence, and 0 catastrophic expenditure. This goal was told to be achieved by India under the NSP by 2025, 5 years ahead of the global SDG targets. So, whatever is a global SDG target, India aimed to achieve that by 2025. Okay? That is 90%, 80% and 0% reduction. Okay? And then again there is a 90-90-90 target that was given by WHO. This is there in your book. That is, reach at least 90% of all people with TB. As part of this approach, reach at least 90% of the key populations and achieve at least 90% treatment success. So, this is again the 90-90-90 target of the TB. Reach at least 90% of all people. As part of this approach, reach at least 90% of the vulnerable of the key populations and achieve at least 90% of the treatment success. So, these key populations, now that we intensified case finding in the vulnerable populations, who are these vulnerable populations? Those who have increased exposure to TB, like prisoners, sex workers, minors, hospital visitors, healthcare workers and community health workers. Those who live in urban slums, poor living conditions, TB contacts including children, work in overcrowded environment or hospital settings, and people who are having limited access to TB treatment, like people living in tribal areas, homeless people, people living in hard to reach areas, homes for the elderly, those who have disabilities, some who face legal barriers to access the treatment, then transgender and another sexual orientation, a person also who are having this limited access to TV services. So they are to be focused more. And people living with HIV, diabetes, silicosis, undernourished, get immunosuppression, inject the drugs, use tobacco and or alcohol. So they are to be focused more. So all these are key populations for receiving the TB treatment. They have to be found out first. Okay. This NSP for the RNTCP, as I said, the 80% TB reduction in TB incidence, 90% reduction in TB mortality and 0% patient having catastrophic expenditure due to TB. These are the targets with the base year of 2015. And there are 4 pillars to achieve this: detect, treat, prevent, build. DTPB, detect, treat, prevent, build. The 4 pillars of this NSP: detect, treat, prevent and build. Detect means detection of the TB. You have to upscale that. Laboratory system and diagnosis, active case finding through screening, private sector involvement, all these strategies were there. Okay. Active case finding means how to case find for the TB. Before there used to be passive case findings, like patients came to the hospital with symptoms, you detected them with the TB. That was a suspected patients reporting to the centers. Then there was the intensified case finding, that is in vulnerable communities the case finding is going on. And finally the active case finding in vulnerable groups in the urban, rural, tribal areas. That is, you are going out, healthcare workers are going out and canvassing all these areas and finding the TB cases. That is the active case finding. Now after detect there is a treat, providing treatment services, mapping of key affected populations, developing a patient support system. Prevent is airborne infection control, contact tracing, that is contact tracing whoever is in contact with TB patients. Okay, airborne infection control in the hospital. So hospital infection control settings should be upscaled and maintained. Isoniazid preventive therapy and latent TB infection treatment. And build is urban TB control, health system strengthening, involvement of medical colleges, surveillance, monitoring and evaluation. So all these components are there under each strategy that are to be maintained to achieve those targets, that is 80% reduction in incidence, 90% reduction in mortality and 0% catastrophic expenditure. After that in 2020 what happened is this program was renamed from RNTCP to NTEP, National Tuberculosis Elimination Program. That is the Indian program name got changed to the elimination phase. That is NTEP. Now the program is known as NTEP. Okay, you cannot say RNTCP anymore. Now it is the NTEP, National Tuberculosis Elimination Program. So India's TB control got a change of the name. It is no longer known as RNTCP but the National Tuberculosis Elimination Program, NTEP. So what is the structure of this NTEP? In the national level there is the Central TB Division under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. At the state level there is the State TB Officer managing at the state level. At the District TB Office there is the governing the activities at the district level by the District TB Officer, and the sub-district level or the block level activities are organized under TB units. As we know, subdivisional level there is the sub-district level there is a TB unit. One unit per 2 lakh rural or 1 lakh urban population and managed by the MOTC. Okay, managed by the MOTC. So this is Central TB Division headed by the Deputy Director General of TB. Then there is a state level State TB Officer, district level District TB Officer and sub-district level by MOTC. And sub-district level it is managed by the TB unit. So sub-district and peripheral level health institutions, because now everything is decentralized, so this part has the more burden or the more responsibility for managing TB patients. So TB units is 1 per 2 lakh population on average. Okay, block medical officer acts as MOTC. Under them the team of STS or STLS under the administrative supervision of MOTC. Okay, the the TB unit will have one microscopy center for 1 lakh population, referred to as designated microscopy center. Okay, designated microscopy center. Till 1 lakh population, there is one designated microscopy center. Okay, and below that there is the peripheral health institutions like PSC. There is a peripheral health institutions like PSC where there is one MO and one TB health visitor, and under them there is the this Ayushman Arogya Mandirs. These are there. Ayushman Arogya Mandirs are basically the health and wellness centers. Health and wellness centers, that is the basic level of the peripheral health centers. That is, some are being converted to Ayushman Arogya Mandirs so that this TB detection or the TB referral is done to the higher centers. Okay. So this is the TB units and designated microscopy center for 1 lakh population, and under them there is the peripheral health institutions headed by the MO and the TB health visitor. And under TB health visitor there is the ANM, the ASHA workers are working. So this is the whole organogram of the NTEP program. Okay. And the laboratory setup, peripheral level there is the designated microscopy center in the peripheral level for per 1 lakh population, and district and sub-district level. Nowadays it has come CBNAT. Okay, now it has come to be CBNAT. Now CBNAT is found in the district and the sub-district level hospitals as well. So what is there? The microscopy is there, CBNAT is there, and TrueNAT chest X-ray, these are there. So district designated microscopy center and then CBNAT, these are all there till the district level. Above that, C and DST laboratories, that is the culture and drug sensitivity labs, specialized labs, they are there in the medical colleges and private sector, where there is microscopy, NAT, and LPI is there from this level, liquid culture, LCDST. Above that there is state level IRL, intermediate referral laboratories, where there is the national laboratories as well, where there is microscopy, NAT, LPA, liquid culture, LDST, and also there is training and quality assurance of all testing modalities. So this is the laboratory network of the NTEP now. Okay, in whatever facilities are available at each level, that you have to know that where will I send the patient for these tests. Okay, which labs will I send for certain patients, whether they send them to the subdivisional hospital or whether they send them to the district hospital or the state level hospital or the medical college, where do I need to send the patient for getting the tests. Okay, so that is why you laboratory network of the NTEP. Okay, so this is for today. So this was the program structure and whatever is there under the program. Whatever has happened throughout RNTCP is now being continued as NTEP. Until this year, there is the NSP for the TB control, right? NSP, the National Strategic Program for the TB control. After this 2025, then a new program will come. New strategic plan will come for the TB. So I think for you, you need to know till this NSP till 2025. Okay. So any questions you can ask. This programmatic aspect is very important. Okay. Related to this, questions will come. Not so much related to the drugs or the side effects, but this programmatic aspect is very important. So in the PARC textbook, you read the tuberculosis chapter, and under the program part of the textbook, there is a national program part of the textbook. There you have to study the NTEP, National Tuberculosis Elimination Program. Okay, thank you.